on CityCast Nashville. We're talking about what the federal budget cuts mean for hunger relief right here in Middle Tennessee. I'm joined by Second Harvest Food Bank's president and CEO, Nancy Kyle, and Senior Manager of Government Relations, Tammy Dieter, to break down how these cuts could affect thousands of Nashvillians who rely on food assistance. It's Monday, September 8th. I'm your host, Marie Cecile Anderson, and this is what Nashville's talking about. Nancy, when did you first hear about the USDA funding cuts, and what was your initial reaction?
We were in the midst of working on our budget for the coming year. I think it was April 1st is when we got notification. The first notification came through that what is used to be called LFPA, which was then called Farm to Food Banks, that was clawed back. So that was pulled back, the funds that were going to all the food banks across the United States. For us, that would have been a little over $3 million. And we were spending a lot of time talking about this next year because the need has increased so much in our service area. So since 2020, we've seen a 46% increase in food insecure individuals. So that represents about 450,000 people in our 46 counties that we serve that are food insecure. So that is money that we use to work with farmers to buy fresh produce, dairy, and protein in our service area. We get that food from farmers and we get it right back to the community right there in that area. So they get to have fresh tomatoes from farmers right there in their neighborhoods. And what it allows these local small farmers to do is we work with them on a quarterly basis they'll know what's coming next so they can actually plan ahead. And it is a wonderful partnership working with all the farmers across the state and with the Tennessee Department of Ag. So that was the first thing that we found out. Now, just to let you know, we are still in the formal funding that we had from the Tennessee Department of Ag, and we are spending that money through next summer of 26. So that funding was going to start next year. But so that's gone. And it's fresh produce, dairy, and protein, like I said, and it gives economic growth to the community because farmers are getting paid for the food that they're growing that stays right here in our state. And it feeds people that are food insecure. And then we found out that USDA was cutting 30% of all TFAP food commodities from USDA across all the food banks across the United States. And there's 200 food banks that serve every county in the United States. So we're one of the 200. And for us, we work with 615 partners and we have 19 programs. And that's how we distribute the food to all the food insecure population in Middle and West Tennessee. So for that 30% cut in commodities, we like to put everything in, like, what does that mean in a truckload? That's 100 truckloads of food that we're not going to get. So it's 4 million pounds of food. So, we're devastated. Now, here's the great thing on the commodities piece is the relationship that we have with the Tennessee Department of Ag and their passion for farmers and agriculture and food to food insecure and to children in schools and stuff. That is a very high priority for them. And so they're a great partner of ours. We love that relationship. They too are disappointed in that. And so we're going to continue to work and to see how can we further amplify that for the future. But right now, that money was cut and is gone for future partnerships with our farmers.
Well, Tammy, tell us, how critical are these government programs and this funding for Tennesseans that Second Harvest serves every single day?
Well, it's vital. So these federal programs serve as a support for our neighbors who are food insecure, and they work hand in hand with the work that we do. We know things like SNAP dollars are supposed to be a supplement, but they don't go very far. The average amount that a person sees comes out to about $6.25 a day. And so that serves to help folks, but also the food banks come in and supplement that as well. So it's a vital partnership between these federal nutrition programs and us as community social safety net to make sure that those two things go hand in hand to meet the needs of neighbors.
So when we talk about losing 30% of USDA food supplies, 4 million pounds in a year for Second Harvest, what does that actually mean for the people relying on this food?
It means a lot, especially when you're ultimately down the road going to lose also some SNAP benefits to go along with it. But for us, the TFAP food that we get is, we call it first line food. So it is produce, it is fresh fruits and vegetables. I mean, it's really good food and dairy that we are getting to people in need. We get the majority of our food through grocery stores, manufacturers. So that's where we get a bulk of our donated food. And what the TFAP food does is it complements that, again, with wonderful food. So from a grocery store, when people are donating, we get whatever people donate. What we get from TFAP is just really quality food. Not that the grocery store food isn't, but it's this guaranteed fresh food that we know. We see the list of the food that we're going to get. We know what it is in advance. So we know when we're going out in distributions what our partners are going to get to be able to distribute, or if we put it on a mobile pantry. So it's a big loss to us. And that's why we are putting a full court press on working with everybody that we already do across the state and finding new partners. Anybody that has food, any farmer that has food, anybody that can donate food to us, we're just really trying to make sure we're not leaving anything on the shelves that people would be willing to donate. There are incentives for people to donate, tax incentives for people to donate. So we make sure that people are aware of that so they can take advantage of that and get that food to people in need.
So when you talk about SNAP benefits, can you actually explain what those are? And are they the same as EBT?
SNAP is Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. So it is a federally funded nutrition social safety net. It is the same as EBT, and that EBT is the name of the card. It's basically a debit card, so it's electronic benefit transfer. It is a set amount that folks get loaded to that card monthly to spend on groceries. The average is about $181 for a Tennessee family. There is an application process that you have to go through. It's what's called means tested. So you have to income qualify. And that in Tennessee is 130% of the federal poverty level for your gross income. So before taxes, anything is taken out. You do an application either by paper or online. You submit documents to verify. Those will probably be pay stubs, rental agreements, screenshots if you have online banking, or a copy of your latest bank statement, things like that to verify what your income is, what you have coming in money-wise. Once you do that, then you have a phone interview where they ask questions. So Department of Human Services asks questions, goes a little bit more in depth into your situation. And then they have 30 days total to process that application. And if you are approved, then that EBT card is mailed to you. So it's definitely not something that is an instant turnaround. It is a lengthy process. A lot of times you have to recertify every 6 months, which means you do a shortened version of that, but confirm that, you haven't had an increase in income, more household members, things like that. Just a situational change check every 6 months or so.
So I have to admit, I'm a little confused about the SNAP benefits because they're in the news so much right now, and headlines saying that they're going to be defunded or possibly going away next year. What is the truth around all of that? Are they being cut?
There are changes in the eligibility for individuals applying. So that could lead to people no longer qualifying who may be on now, depending on where they fall within those eligibility changes. So there's things around that and just funding itself going forward. But we don't know what that will look like, what that final outcome will be. So it doesn't appear to be that desperate. I think that's not true that they will completely go away. I mean, it's a valued program that everyone can support. So valid alarm to be raised, but not to that extent.
Don't catastrophize it yet. Okay.
Yeah, I think, Marie, on part of it, though, is there's part of the additional cuts that we don't have the details on will happen in 2027. So we know what's happening today, and that Tammy addressed that. There's eligibility, there's able-bodied requirements, work requirements, and things like that. But the cuts that they've talked about, the bigger number that they talk about will come in 2027. And so we don't know what all that entails, but that is why we continue to monitor and listen and keep our ear to the ground on what's going on, because it's already going to be difficult. It already is. It's SNAP, as Tammy mentioned, it's not you don't just say, hey, I want it and you get it.
No, it's so hard to get.
And you don't get a lot of money with it, but it is very good. So people get that money, they get dignity to shop in grocery stores, and then the grocery stores actually get the revenue, which is billions of dollars in the state of Tennessee. But down the road in 2027, so we're already going to lose people. We call it people falling through the cracks. And then when you get to the reduction in 2027, that will just leave more people that don't have access to SNAP dollars, and food banks can't manage all the loss from SNAP dollars. So that is our federal safety net to ensure that people do have the ability to get access to food. And as it continues to dwindle or change or allow people to fall through the cracks, it puts more on food banks and our partner agencies, and that just gets more and more difficult at the same time where there's less food coming in from the federal government.
Do you think that they're waiting until after the midterm elections to make those cuts?
I would assume that probably has something to do with the decision making, but that's not anything that we get information on.
Y'all know I am a brand new dog mom, and Miss Lottie is very clear about her priorities. Sleeping in, not on her watch. As a border collie, she is relentless. When she wants a walk, she gets a walk. I gotta get out of bed, grab what I can, and head to the park. That's why I am so grateful for Huel Black Edition powder. That's HUEL. It's a complete meal that keeps me full, focused, and ready to chase after my very determined dog. At less than $3 per meal, it's packed with 40 grams of plant-based protein and 27 vitamins and minerals. No added sugar, gluten-free, and it tastes amazing in salted caramel or chocolate. Perfect for breakfast, lunch, or post-dog park. And now Huel has a game changer. Super Greens drink in a can. It's called the Huel Daily Greens Ready to Drink. Sparkling, delicious, and packed with 42 vitamins, minerals, and superfoods. Only 25 calories, 4 grams of fiber, 1 gram of sugar, and it's made by dietitians. No powders, no pills, just grab and go. Flavors like blueberry, apple, and peach make getting your greens easy and scrumptious. Try Huel with 15% off for new customers today using my code Nashville at Huel.com/Nashville. Fuel your best performance with Huel today. Nashville has plenty of live music, but you are missing out if you've never experienced Musicians Corner in Centennial Park. It's unlike anything else in town. First off, it's a 16-year-old multi-genre concert series that's absolutely free. Plus, it's pet-friendly, has a kids' activity area, and you can pull out a blanket, grab a bite, and hear some of the finest musicians from Nashville and beyond. Musicians Corner takes place every single Friday in September from 5 to 9 p.m. with live music, food trucks, artisan vendors, craft beer, wine, cocktails, and more. Check out performances from Parker Millsap, Lachlan Strings with Amanda Shires, Cedric Burnside, Ron Gallo, and so many more. It's produced by the nonprofit Centennial Park Conservancy and supported by CityCast Nashville. Visit musicianscorner.com for the full lineup. Can these smaller food banks survive without the food you deliver?
You mean our partner agency, the pantries that we serve?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's not like they're not getting any food, because we still have food that we're distributing. It is a significant cut, and there were other federal funding means that we had where we could get additional food to folks that naturally ran out this June. Everything it's so interesting about the work we do is it's not a constant, like every year is not a perfect, everything that's going on. So you try to be really smart about understanding your business, who you're serving, keeping the neighbor centered in every decision you're making. How do you make sure partners have access to food? How are they distributing it? Are they open the hours they need to be? So I would say there might be some that will struggle, that may be really small or just have volunteers and say, we just can't make it happen anymore. But I haven't heard of anybody hasn't called and said, hey, we're going to shut down. I know people have said that they have empty shelves, but I will tell you, we take great care in trying to make sure that we can secure as much food as we can, not only through the federal government, but through all our other resources. So we do have food available. We also advocate and write grants to get money to support our partner agencies to buy food and also to provide them with equipment so they can store food and offer things like fresh milk and dairy, protein items. So our whole energy is around how do we do our work and lift up our partners to make sure our community gets the service they need so they can get nutrition and so they can thrive. But I would be remiss to say that we or any of our partners would fail based on a 30% cut. Does that make sense? So over time, we've got to find other resources. Hopefully, there is a thing, I believe it's called Section 28 bonus food from USDA. Last time the Trump administration was in the White House, those bonus foods were available to food banks. If that comes back again, that could be additional food that could supplement our USDA commodities. So every day we're hopeful and we're talking to people that get to make those decisions and encouraging them to make sure that they don't forget about the neighbors that are food insecure and that they do need our help and they need nutrition in order to thrive and to be productive in society, which is all we want. And we need to provide it with dignity.
Well, so in a recent interview, Nancy, you said that this was the largest rollback of hunger relief in U.S. history. What keeps you up at night? Because you sound so hopeful, which is wonderful to hear. But what are your biggest concerns?
Oh, my biggest concern is 450,000 people in our service area that need food. And it all starts with the staff that works here. There's 146 people that work at Second Harvest, 3 facilities, to make sure that we are great partners to 615 partners and that 450,000 people have access to food. That is my concern. And without great people doing the great work here, we can't serve the neighbors. Without great food, we can't serve the neighbors. Everything we do is about connecting and partnering, and there's no one way we look at doing things. We try to be as nimble as we can. We, for years, tried to figure out how to have relationships with farmers and what does that look like. I always say that there's not a Rolodex for farmers, and to say, hey, send an email and y'all send us your food. Either we'll buy it in pennies per pound or we'll buy it with more money or we get it donated. That just didn't happen. So that work we've done over the last 3 years has been instrumental in bringing in new food, nutritious food into our network. And we're going to continue to do that work and to grow that food. So yeah, I'm hopeful. Sometimes I think, am I being Pollyanna? But I know the work Second Harvest has done for 47 years, and we're not going to let this stop us. We just need to figure out how we may do things differently. We might add things that we haven't done. So it's just about, if we keep the neighbor focused as our center, we will make all the right decisions to get them the food that they need.
What are the next steps for the community, and how can our listeners help?
I think that's a great question, and thank you. And it's pretty simple because we like to look at it a couple different levels. I mean, I would like to say, hey, we need money, because we do need money, but we also need volunteers. So if you don't have money, but you've got time or talent, please come volunteer with us. You can host a food drive. We even have virtual food drives where you do that online. You don't even have to touch a can of food or anything. You're raising money, and we take that money and we go buy food. Or you can donate, and we take donations online, via check, about any way you can possible, stocks, whatever you have. For us, it's just building awareness of the people that are food insecure. You're probably work with, go to school with, go to church with, live next door to somebody that has or could be food insecure. If you're food insecure, you're not waving a flag that says, hey, I graduated college. You're saying to yourself, I can't feed my family. And so what we try to do is make sure that they have the resources. That's why we have our Find Food tool on our website. Our goal is to make it as easy as possible for people to get access. And then we have a number of our programs that we do that are where we meet people where they are. We do home delivery through Amazon Flex. We have mobile markets that go into food desert communities. We have mobile pantries. I mean, there are so many different programs that we offer to make sure that people have access to food, and again, making sure that they get that food presented with the right kind of dignity. Nobody is waking up today saying, I hope I can't feed my family. I hope I'm food insecure today. These are people that have jobs, they're working multiple jobs, or they just don't have a high enough salary, or they've had medical issues, multi-generational. There's so many different things people are facing, and they're making really difficult decisions. We want to make sure you have the food you need so you can address the other needs.
2025, we're all conscious consumers. I can't think of a better birthday gift. I love that, getting that card from Second Harvest Food Bank of so-and-so made this donation in your honor for a birthday or a holiday. So listeners at home, it is a really great gift to give to family, friends, neighbors. What other food aid services in Nashville do you want to highlight that our listeners might not know about?
Oh, we've got great partners across the board, and Tammy can jump in. So we've got Martha O'Brien Center. They do amazing work. St. Luke's Community House. They do amazing work. If you're down in Williamson County, we've got Grace Works. You've got the Mission right down the street.
Store is amazing.
Oh, yeah. We got the store.
If Second Harvest hits the Powerball, what's the first thing you're going to do?
The first thing we're going to do if we hit the Powerball is we would sit down as a team to talk about what would be the strategies to maximize that money. So we would obviously invest some for the future, because we have to make sure that the service is sustainable for the long haul. And then how can we optimize our work and our service to our 615 partners? What do they need to make sure that they have the capacity to serve the neighbors in need, and just get really, really amazing food to people in need. And we can do it faster, better, more frequent. You can do a lot with, how much is it now? It's over $1 billion. So it's a lot of money.
Well, Tammy, I'd like to end with you and just zoom out and look at the whole country. Can you give us an idea of what food insecurity looks like in Middle Tennessee compared to the rest of the country?
I think people are struggling with grocery prices, and I think that is a lot like the rest of the country. I think we're pretty similar. People just having to make the choices every day on what to use their hard-earned dollars on, what to buy with their limited funds. So if you're choosing food over medication or partial payments on your rent, it can ripple into anything that affects a family's budget. And so if we can be there to supplement and help them stretch their family budget, that's amazing. I think it's a hopeful place, hopeful that things will get better, that community is always here. And maybe that's what makes Middle Tennessee a little bit, I don't know if we're a little bit better than the rest of the country. That's presumptuous. But to say that we have that volunteer spirit, just to use that Tennessee metaphor,
right,
that we always are there for our neighbors. And that's something that Tennessee, and especially Middle Tennessee, is really known for, and Nashville. We're always going to have each other's backs. So that is something that makes us great, and community is always here. So no matter what happens on that federal level, we're always going to be here to support each other. So always hopeful.
That's all for today here on CityCast Nashville. And don't forget, you can support this show and get great perks by becoming a CityCast Nashville neighbor at membership.citycast.fm. If you enjoyed the show, why not tell your friends, rate the show, leave us a review, and subscribe to our Hey Nashville newsletter. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more news from around the city. Toodles.